All right, business news now, and I'm joined by Anka Ula. Hi, Anka. Starting with oil company Exxon Mobil, fined $2 million by the United States.
That's right. Exxon has been handed the maximum fine from the US Treasury Department for reckless disregard and violating Ukraine-related sanctions on Russia back in 2014. While the amount is a blip on the radar for the oil company, it's throwing fuel on the fire in Washington, which is already embroiled in a scandal over ties to Russia. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was Exxon's CEO back in 2014, when the company signed a series of deals with Russia's largest oil producer, Rosneft. State Department reps are refusing comment, fielding questions to Exxon, which has sued the government back, calling the fine fundamentally unfair. Let's hear what Tillerson's rep did say on Thursday.
The Secretary recused himself from his dealings with Exxon Mobil at the time that he became Secretary of State. This all predates his time here at the Department of State, and so I'm going to refrain from giving any comment on that at this time. The Secretary continues to abide by his ethical commitments, including that recusal from Exxon-related activities. The action was taken by the Department of State, the Department of the Treasury, and State was not involved in this.
Well, Tillerson did say back in 2014 that Exxon did not support sanctions because they harm American business interests and help European rivals.
All right. Now, here in France, national rail company SNCF making a move to reduce its electrical bill. I wish I could do the same.
Well, the SNCF is France's biggest consumer of electricity. Surprisingly, it consumes 10% of all of the electricity produced in France each year. Alexander Hurst explains what the company is doing to change that.
The TGV, France's high-speed train, goes fast, up to 320 kilometers an hour. And to hit those speeds, the SNCF, the national railway operator, uses a lot of electricity. The first step it's taking to reduce consumption is training conductors in green driving, which it says could save 60 million euros, or 10% of its annual bill.
It's a more subtle kind of driving. You have to anticipate what's coming. It's not more difficult, it actually helps.
Next up, attacking passive energy usage from trains that remain connected to the grid even while they are stationary, which would reduce electricity usage by 3%.
When the train is stopped for a long time, we can disconnect the power so that the internal systems, air conditioning, lighting, go into low energy mode.
Third is producing its own electricity with plans to install solar panels on top of France's 3,000 train stations. Belgium has already delved into this, but by installing wind turbines along its tracks.
We have these wind turbines which produce energy, which is then sent to this transformer station right here and turned into electricity that's usable for the rail network, which is right next door. And whatever excess is produced is sent to the normal grid that serves households.
When there's no wind, no worry. The traditional electricity network kicks back into play. It's a strategy the SNCF is hoping to one day deploy itself.
Last day in the trading week. How are markets looking today, Anka?
Well, we are seeing a slow trading session in Asia this morning. Tokyo's Nikkei closed down more than 0.2% as investors digest the European Central Bank's decision yesterday to hold off on changing monetary policy. Shanghai and Hong Kong are both hovering at the flat line, and Seoul's Kospi is up almost 0.2%. The dollar also continued its drop on Friday, hitting near two-year lows against the euro and all major currencies. It's time to take a look at some other business news we're following for you this hour. The Federal Trade Commission is looking into allegations that Amazon misled customers over discounts. The informal investigation responds to a complaint saying that Amazon inflates its reference prices to make consumers believe they are getting bigger discounts than they actually are. Visa beat analysts' expectations on its earnings report, banking 86 cents per share against the expected 81 cents. The company attributed its performance to its expansion into Europe and increases in cross-border volumes. Visa shares have gained more than 25% so far this year. And miners clashed with police in Lima on Thursday during a protest against labor reforms in the country. Union workers at more than 50 mines in Peru have been on strike for the past 2 days, claiming that planned reforms would loosen safety rules and make firing workers easier.
And now you're ending with a story from Russia about those fidget spinners we see so many of the children using. This a surprising story coming out of Russia, really.
Yeah, well, apparently the fidget spinners are more dangerous than we believed. Earlier this week, Russia's consumer watchdog warned against the, quote, aggressive promotion of the wildly popular children's toy. It suggested parents should be careful where they buy hand spinners from, and that they should check for broken parts before giving them to their children. This somewhat bizarre statement follows an equally bizarre news report from Russia's state TV suggesting that opposition parties in Russia are trying to lure young supporters by selling these fidget spinners at rallies. Other media reports followed, saying that the toys were zombifying youth, and even suggesting they could be instruments of Western propaganda. So, I'm not quite sure how that works, but I've never used one. I don't know if you have.
I think there's plenty of other things that could be zombifying youth as well. Video games, movies, but I was guilty of the same when I was young. Anka Ula with a roundup of the business news. That's all for now, but please stay tuned to France 24.